Hi everyone, welcome to MSCR Makes. I'm Miss Julia, and today we're going to be doing decoupage. Decoupage is the art of decorating things with paper. So, for this project, you will need something to decorate, like a little glass jar or a big one. I like to use things that are recycled from my recycling. So this one had spices in it before, this one had some pasta sauce. You'll also want a small bowl, some glue, some water, a paintbrush, tissue paper. You can use lots of different colors, whatever you have on hand, and you might want some scissors. You can pause the video here and go gather your supplies. Now that you've had a chance to gather your supplies, I'm going to move some things out of the way. We're going to start with our tissue paper. So I already cut up a few other colors of tissue paper into little squares. You can also rip your tissue paper to get lots of fun edges, but I'll cut up my blue-green tissue paper like this into little squares. You want to make sure that you have enough tissue paper to cover whatever you are decoupaging or putting the paper on. So I'll go ahead and cut up a few more squares. That's probably enough. I'll move my tissue paper out of the way, and the next thing we're going to do is prepare our glue. So I have my small bowl, and I'm going to take the lid off of my glue, but you could also just use the regular cap part. And I'm going to put some glue into my bowl. You don't need too much, but it depends on how big the jar or bowl that you are decoupaging is. I think I'm going to do my very little glass jar, so I don't need very much. So right now you can see how thick and sticky the glue is and how it moves very slowly. And if I put my paintbrush in it, you can see it trails off of my paintbrush a little bit, but it's still very thick. So what I'm going to do is add a tiny bit of water. You can always add more water in, but you can't really take more water out. So you want to start with a very tiny splash of water. And you're going to mix the glue and the water together slowly and carefully until it's all one homogeneous mixture, or it's all the same, so you don't see any more glue and any more water. It's all just one mixture. There we go. So now you can see that my glue and water mixture, it moves a lot faster, and it comes off of my brush really fast too. So that's about right. You don't need too much water, just to thin out your glue a tiny bit so it's easier to work with. So I'll move these up here and grab my glass. So I mentioned that this is a recycled piece of glass. This used to have some spices in it, but all I did was take my glass once I was done with what was in it, and I cleaned it out really well so that there's no more food inside. And then to get the label off, I carefully see if I can get it off without having to do anything by just pulling it off, but sometimes it helps to soak your glass in warm soapy water to get your label off. And if there's still a few little bits of label left on your jar when you start to decoupage, that's okay, because you're going to be putting tissue paper on top, so you won't even see it. So if you can't get all of the label off, that's okay too. So I'm going to hold my glass by the inside like this so that you can see the sides better while I'm working on it, but you might want to put your glass upside down like this while you're doing your decoupage and work on it from the side. One of the things that I like to make sure is to leave this top part up here, the threads, without any glue and without any tissue paper on them so that I can leave my glass to dry and it won't get stuck to my table. So you want to be sure to leave an edge on your glass that does not have any glue on it. Otherwise, it will get stuck to your table as it's drying. So I'll show you what we're going to do. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and put a thin layer of your watered down glue onto the glass. You can work in sections and leave some empty and put glue on some of it. I'm going to work in sections so that the glue does not dry all the way while I am working. The next thing I'm going to do is lay down pieces of tissue paper. I like to overlap mine so that they make cool patterns, and sometimes you even get interesting colors that come from that. So right now I'm leaving some blank spaces, but I'll come back and fill those in later. So now that I have my first layer of tissue paper down, I'll take a little more glue and I'm going to carefully, so that I don't move my tissue paper, put a little more glue on top of everything. And now, because these pieces of tissue paper have glue, I can go ahead and stick overlapping pieces on again and cover up all of those blank areas. Once I've covered up all of the blank areas in the spot that I was working on, I'll go back through and put on a little more glue to make sure that everything is nice and stuck to my glass. And then I'm going to rotate it so that the empty area is showing and repeat the same process. And I accidentally got a little bit of glue up here, but that's okay. I can just wipe it off before it starts to dry. So I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing by putting down pieces of paper onto the wet glue, putting a layer of glue on top of the papers that I just put down, and going back through and covering up any blank areas. You can even go over some of the areas multiple times and make lots of different shapes with your little pieces of tissue paper. Now that I have the whole thing covered, you can see I don't have any blank spots left. I'm going to go through and put a nice thin layer of glue over everything. This is what's going to seal in your decoupage so that it doesn't fall off. So go around the whole thing, just do a nice thin layer. You'll want to make sure after you're done doing your decoupage that you clean off your brush really well, because otherwise the glue will stick in it and it will ruin your brush. So make sure to wash it out right away when you're done. So here is the wet decoupage that I have on this one. I like how that looks, so I'm going to turn it upside down so that it won't stick to my table and move it off to the side. And I'm going to show you one that I finished earlier. So I let this one dry overnight, so now it's nice and dry. And this one I used a little bit bigger of a jar for it, so this one I decided to put some pens in. I think that looks really cool. I like that some of the areas you can see there's only a single layer of tissue paper, whereas other areas are overlapping, and some areas like this, where a lighter color like this pink is overlapping with the blue, you can see that it's made a different color, because there's the normal pink, there's the blue, and there's the color that they made when they overlapped and mixed together. And you can use your decoupage artwork for whatever you want. I like to hold things like pens in mine, but you could also put tiny toys or other things that are special to you inside of your decoupage. Well, I hope you enjoy doing the decoupage project, and I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you get lots of fun overlapping colors with all your different tissue paper colors and come out with a really cool project. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!